will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Deanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Catherine Solon. Angie Schreiber.
Here.
Dr. Bardo.
Here.
Bobby Braun.
Here.
Jill Maddock Nelson.
Here.
Kristen Matt Miller.
Here.
Scott Peterson.
Here.
J.D. Schrader. Danny Pyatt.
Here. Moving on to item 2, citizens and delegation, student representatives report. They're not here. Did you?
Correct. They're not here because we didn't have school today.
Correct. Letter B, recognition. I will turn this over to Mrs. Ojenski.
Tonight, we would like to recognize Mrs. Michelle Arlen. She is the high school transition coordinator. Michelle has completed Indicator 14 surveys for the last several years. The Indicator 14 survey is for students with disabilities out of the Antigo High School. Questions revolve around their current living situations, academic paths, and career outcomes. Michelle successfully contacted 98% of the students identified by DPI this year. Districts are paid for successful participation, and this year, due to Michelle's passionate work, she has earned the Unified School District of Antigo approximately $14,000 for the Transition Improvement Grant. Thank you, Mrs. Arlen, for your dedication to our students and the Unified School District of Antigo. Please come forward.
Your hair looks great.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we could have. I didn't want to.
Well deserved, Miss Arlen.
Okay. Absolutely. What Bobby said is very well deserved. You worked very hard for the district, and I appreciate that so much. Letter C, public comment. Deanna,
No
I don't
comment.
see any names. Item number 3, consent agenda. I will be looking for a motion for approval of agenda, minutes, finance reports, overnight travel, report of district new hires, and district retirement and resignation.
I move the board approve the agenda, minutes from the December 16th, 2024 Board of Education meeting, January committee meeting minutes, report of district new hires, district retirement and resignation report, financial reports for December 2024 and January 2025, consideration of current bills, checks number 8556 through 8645 in the amount of $267,000, $387.19. ACH's numbers 242500694 through 242500869 in the amount of $811,206.03, and wire transfers in the amount of $168,046.60 for a total of $1,246,639.80.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I just want to recognize the retirements and piggybacking off of what Glenda had mentioned earlier, the years of service are absolutely commendable, and we're sorry to see those folks go, but so proud to have had them.
Yep. We are very blessed.
Any other discussion or questions of the motion on the floor?
I would just also like to comment on the retirements. In doing the math, there's 471 combined years of service with our retirements. 10 of those being 10 individuals with 30-plus years, 5 individuals with 20-plus years, 2 individuals with 6 and 10 years, respectfully. So I just want to share my significant appreciation, both personally and professionally, to those staff members for their career and dedication to our community and our district. It takes veteran leaders to keep district strong. And the level of appreciation cannot be recognized with words, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe all of us, that goes without saying, Jill, we can piggyback on what you've just said, and ditto for all the board members. And in fact, we do have a social gathering that we plan in the month, usually May, in May for to recognize all of the retirees in the district. And I would encourage the board members, whenever that date is set, let's try to make sure that we can clear our calendars and schedules and to be there present for that great event. It is a fun night, and you will have a great time. Are there any other questions, comments? There's two checks that I need to recuse myself from, and those numbers are 242-500-794. That is to Covantage, and 242-500-795. Also to Covantage. One is for dental and the other is for HRA. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. And the vote passes with one abstention. Moving on to item 4, administration reports. I will turn this over to Mrs. Ojenski.
Attached, we have the Director of Business Services report, and Mrs. Fosbender is available remote if anyone has any questions. Next, we have the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education. The report is attached, and Mrs. Wagner is present if anyone has questions. Up next, we have the Director of Buildings and Grounds. The report is attached, and Mr. Leideman is present if anyone has questions. Next, I invite the board to join the audience for a presentation of the director report by Mrs. Mushak for the Director of Technology. She has a presentation that she's going to share with us, summarizing the work that she and her team have engaged in since she has taken her position. So at this point, Dustin's going to share the screen. Mrs. Mushak will walk us through her presentation, and I encourage you to have a seat in the audience so you have a better view if you wish. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, well, good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight. It was very helpful to see everyone in person. Mother Nature has other plans, so bear with me. I'm confident this will be effective virtually as well, but like I said, I hope to give you some faces this evening. But we'll go ahead and get started. So the purpose of this board update is really to outline the current state of technology operations in the district, in addition to the strategic focus going forward. So I want to take an opportunity to present to you the current state in terms of how technology is today, what we've worked toward and what we've accomplished since the start of my time, which was July 1st of this past year, and then also recap the strategic focus. And I think it's important to touch on the fact that technology in itself is currently and constantly changing. So I'm going to talk a lot about changes that need to happen and some things that we want to maybe do differently. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that really we're building upon the valuable contributions and the foundation that had been laid by the current tech team and the prior tech department members. And it's clear that, they've laid a strong foundation, and we're just simply looking to build upon that. And that's what I'd like to convey in tonight's presentation. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, is everyone able to see that? We can now. Yes. Okay, awesome. Okay, so moving forward then, I'm going to talk about why technology.
technology in any organization, let alone the schools. And when we talk technology, we look at it as it's really the foundation of any successful organization, because we're in the 21st century. We look at technology as more of a strategic asset. So how are we leveraging the equipment and the tools so that we can create operational efficiencies within our organization, which ultimately lead to our end goal? And in our circumstance, our end goal is student growth or student achievement. So again, we want to build upon those efficiencies, and we want to shift some of the work that's being done manually today, and maybe in more of a manual sense, to proactive automated work. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example of a current shift in this past year's one of our processes where we moved to online registration. In the past, we would have leveraged, packets, paper. We'd have to mail those out or get those out, collect that information manually, sift through that information, manually update systems to make sure that that relevant information was at people's fingertips. Whereas this past year, we were able to automate that, get people to input that information directly in the system. And now more seamlessly, we have that information readily available at our fingertips, and we're able to pull reports, get information to the relevant people in a much more timely and efficient manner. So that's one operational efficiency. But as it pertains to student achievement, we can look at something as simple as giving students instant feedback so that they understand directly how they did and how they can improve going forward. So we're really looking to take that technology that's in place and leverage it for really what it's worth and get that return on investment out of it. So when I started out of the gate by actually coming on site and taking a tour of a variety of different buildings, took a lot of pictures, I asked a lot of questions, and I kind of boiled it down from a technical perspective into 4 different quadrants. The first being network infrastructure, the second being data security, the third being hardware, and the fourth being software applications. So I looked at that holistic component in those 4 areas to see what is the current state. What I established was that our network infrastructure was stable, but there's opportunity for enhancements within it, meaning that we have access points in every district. But are we leveraging our internet service provider to have as fast of internet as we possibly can to make sure that we have the speeds that are relevant to meet student needs in the classroom? Data security. We have some practices in place to make sure that our environment remains secure, but we definitely have an opportunity to enhance those to make sure that we're not going to be at risk for any security breaches. Third, hardware. We have a variety of hardware in the district. We have things ranging from Chromebooks to laptops to desktops, Windows tablets, Chromebooks, or iPads. And while it's good to have a variety, it can also mean that we have kind of a support nightmare. So ideally, what we want to do is try to streamline, understand what is the need from an operational standpoint and instructional standpoint, and stand hardware. And then the fourth is software applications. So hardware is going to be the end user facing equipment, and then the software is what are the tools on that equipment that we're using to in our day to day. I mean, right now we have a mix of solutions, and again, we don't really want to have redundant costs. We don't want to be paying for more than we need to, and we really want to make sure that we're standardizing and providing adequate support relevant to these applications, and that again, we'll also have an opportunity to consolidate. Once I had an opportunity to assess the technical landscape, I really wanted to dive in and learn more about who I was going to be working with. So that's when I started to analyze the team and get to know the team as a whole, and that team being the technology team. I started with a series of conversations. We had some one-on-ones. I asked them questions like, what did they feel like they were good at? What do they enjoy doing in their job? What don't they? Because ideally we want to position people to do the right work. And be excited about what they do every day. That's when they're going to excel. So I had some one-on-ones. I started doing a deep dive into the TIC. And so here at Annville, currently we don't have a help desk system per se, but we do facilitate a help desk phone line where people can call in, and we have an email address that people can email with their technical questions. And so when it's just a straight up email, it's harder to analyze some of the data as it pertains to a typical help desk. But I started to dig in to see, okay, how many emails are we working with? How long is it taking us to respond? do we have a backlog? Are there any trends in these tickets where there's common themes of certain things continuing to happen that we need to address right away? I also started to look to see if implementing in any industry standards or processes as it pertains to how we're prioritizing our work, and just to ensure that we were working on the right work. And I also to see if we obtained any customer satisfaction feedback from the people that we service. Obviously, IT is a customer service centric department, and it's important that we hear back from our stakeholders to make sure that we're meeting their needs and that they can do their jobs. So once I had a chance to kind of start analyzing those 4 areas, a few of the strengths that I was able to determine was that there was team camaraderie. Overall, the team worked well together. There was a range of competencies or skill sets within the team, which is good to have. It's good to have people that can focus on a variety of different things. And overall, there was a customer service. So people obviously cared about making sure people got what they needed. When we look at opportunities for improvement, then kind of on the flip side, a few things that were evident were the legacy systems and hardware. So you'll see in a few pictures further down in my presentation, the number of outdated hardware and systems that we're trying to leverage within our environment that maybe just are not meeting our needs anymore, or really are completely have reached end of life and no longer relevant. We have a need for process establishment. So we're doing a lot of the day-to-day things to get buy-in to operate, but they're not necessarily fully documented, and it's not always clear what to do or who to go to where for certain things. So we kind of just put this blanket approach out, like, all right, I have this problem, who's going to help me today? Whereas if we had established processes, more efficiently, and then we could resolve that problem a lot faster. Same with the need to digitally transform, doing things in certain areas. We've got pockets of digital transformation happening, and in others, we've always done. It works, but it's a good question to ask: is there a better way to do something? On the last 2, cybersecurity, that's a little bit more of a technical topic, but again, something that we want to make sure that we're leveraging processes, tools, and training for staff to make sure that we remain vigilant on the different threats that are evolving in today's day and age. And then technology training and documentation. So we've got a lot of great staff that know a lot of great things, but we don't want to be dependent on a specific sole person to know something in tech. We want to make sure that there's cross training and that there's documentation. So in the event we don't have access to that person, we can still survive. So those are a few areas of opportunity for improvement. So actions taken since then. The first thing after we kind of had this analysis of all things tech, we started a classroom and building audit. And that's where I started July 1, in the blink of an eye, or fast forward a few months in school starting. So we had to be ready for the teachers and staff to return. That's when we went around and we just did a holistic audit of every classroom in the district to say, okay, at elementary, this is what a classroom is going to look like. At middle school, at high school, this is what we are going to support in each of the classrooms. From there, we had to take more of an internal audit of our own tech rooms. And if you look at the pictures on the left, this was the before pictures of the high school and middle school IT rooms. And I'm all about people having their own method to the madness. I understand everyone has their own organizational structure, and that's totally fine. But there has to be a method to the madness. And I would say kind of hard to find a method in the picture on the left, respectfully. So we had to go through and sort through, okay, what do we need to keep here? What is worth keeping? What is something that really should have been maybe recycled? And that brings us to the pictures on the right. We did have the recycling. We partnered with a IT recycling company so that they could responsibly dispose and wipe all of the technology that we had that was absolutely no longer relevant in the district. And we disposed of close to 2 tons worth of old hardware and just stuff that was, again, not working. So those are some before and after. The after is not a full after, but it gives you a little bit more of a clear picture as to some of the effort that's been done since July 1. So once we had kind of our own things being established within the technical team, we had to prepare for teachers and students to return. That's when we partnered with Curriculum. Amy Curriculum, she graciously got us on a PD agenda, and in partnership with Donna Krieger for instructional tech and a few of our technicians, that were present on site that day just to make sure everyone's technical needs were met. We facilitated just more of a foundational training for our new staff so that out of the gate, they had the tools in their toolbox to be successful in their classroom. So some of that information was as simple as how to set up their voicemail, how to access their email, how to request a sub, kind of going over what technology the students had so that they knew what they had in their classroom in terms of access. Like I said, just to get them out of the gate. But if you look at the picture on the right, I referenced this picture in one of my board reports as well. These are two technology frameworks that we really want to strive to achieve in terms of the highest level on these infographics. So just to give a baseline example, when you have technology integration, you can be using it for substitution all the way up to redefinition. And when we are working throughout the classroom, it's interesting to kind of see how the technology is currently being used. And so if I just give an example, substitution would mean we're using the technology basically as a strict substitution for something that used to exist. So instead of students writing on paper pencil, they're now typing on paper. And that would be one example of substitution. What we really want to do is aim to strive and get to the redefinition stage where not only are students maybe typing on paper, but they're actually now creating a movie. They're researching, they're analyzing, they're finding the data on their own. And then once they create that video, they're then able to share that video with other students who can then learn from that. So you can see how that technology is not only used for substitution purposes, but it's really redefining learning at that point when students are able to teach other students. So we taught a little bit and took an approach and had a strong emphasis on professional development. And then from there, I summarized kind of the final 8 things that I wanted to recap for you today. We had to obviously update and maintain our own inventory. We have a lot of work to do there within our own system after getting rid of that much equipment. We have put an increased documentation. So again, what are some of those core things that we can document that are going to help our lives going forward? So one example of that, we created this yearly to-do where each person in the tech department has a tech group, and we outline current projects, we outline the status and kind of percentage of completion there, and then we document what do we have to do on a yearly basis and when. That way we can understand, okay, when are we going to, what months of the year are we going to be super busy, what months are maybe ones that we can take on a little bit more project work, and then we can better prioritize our work. We also are documenting technology standard procedures so that as we have staff that kind of come and go, or just because we want to do business in a standard fashion, consistent fashion, we're creating a technology standard procedures document where within here, it explains, has a table of contents, and it explains what to do in the event we get a ticket about a certain topic. So we can always kind of use this as our cheat sheet to go back and say, okay, this is how we handle this to make sure things are being handled consistently. We also have, come back here, intentional cross-training. So that's where, again, we want to make sure that we have backups for people within our department as a whole so that in the event someone needs to be out or wants to take a vacation, they can. They're not dead in the water. We've implemented more of a help desk schedule, a solidified help desk schedule, and has kind of created this mock help desk email situation where we understand how to prioritize tickets. We can farm those out to the appropriate people that can assist in the most effective way. And not only are we focusing, our focus transitions from the quick, easy tickets to, okay, we need to actually handle the tickets that are impacting the most students or staff at this given moment. We might need to shift our priorities there. So we're able to see that more clearly when we have insight into this standard kind of help desk model. We also have proactive notifications. So in the event the internet goes down, phones go down, we want to do our best to, from an IT perspective, to know what goes up front. We don't want to be dependent on tickets or calls incoming from the help desk to let IT know about a certain issue. So we've developed this outage dashboard, which summarizes some of the core platforms that we're responsible for supporting. And at any point, okay, we hear about maybe Gmail isn't working. We can come to this Google dashboard and at a quick glance, we can see, okay, is everything up and functioning as expected? And then we can proactively communicate to the staff to say, okay, just as a heads up, Google has reported that Gmail has been intermittent issues today. Please be advised, just in case your emails are not going through or you're not receiving. And then we're taking that proactive approach so teachers can be better prepared in their classrooms. And then last few things, we audited several of our core systems. So whether that's cameras, doors and pod systems, computer accounts, or tools such as GoGuardian, we have been partnering very closely with HR to understand what their onboarding and offboarding procedures. I've talked a lot about cybersecurity, but physical security in a school district is obviously extremely important to ensure that we have secure buildings and secure tools and platforms that we use on a daily basis. And it's been interesting to see some of the discrepancies, to be honest, in some of these tools that have been implemented and some of the legacy staff that have still had access in these systems that like we should not. So we've been partnering closely with, like I said, HR, administrators to get feedback around, hey, should so-and-so still have this, and making sure that those access levels and privileges are tied to responsibilities, not to specific individuals. And then the last two are also tied to student damage and device damages. I think everywhere I go, you hear, oh, kids nowadays, they don't treat things the way they should, and nobody knows, how to be respectful, and that's fine. I get it, but in the same way, we come from an education standpoint. As adults, we have to be able, we can't just assume that they know these things. Technology is a privilege, and we have to teach them those expectations. So as it pertains to device damages, we started collecting data around how many damages have we had, where are these damages surfacing, what types of damages, how much time are we spending on these repairs. And this is also a metric that I provided in a prior board report and will continue to provide over time. And then we can use this data to analyze and make better informed decisions around our one-to-one. And that way, our one-to-one decisions are data-driven, and we know, kind of what we need to do to make sure that we are making the most effective decisions there. And then I've also partnered with administration at each level, and we have come up with device expectations as they're age appropriate for each level. So this is one example where we've implemented this, and we're rolling this out. It's a slow roll, so it's going to take time for the kids to understand for sure the expected behavior, but we talk about what does appropriate device care look like, what is inappropriate device care, and what are the possible consequences if I choose to act otherwise. And again, it's not intended to be like this punitive thing, but it's intended to proactively educate students around how to treat their technology so that they understand that it's a privilege. And that way we can shift this kind of thought process of technology being this hindrance in the classroom and this little more distraction to, okay, this is a learning tool that we're going to use to engage students and to make sure that they understand that this is actually something that's going to make learning more fun, and therefore I'm going to stay engaged and not break my technology as a result. Or I'm going to be back to the old paper pencil approach. So those are some of the things out of the gate. Beyond some of those, like I said, physical tech things and the recycling that we've done, there's a lot of work to be done still for sure, but this just is a high-level recap of what's been done so far. So as we move into strategic initiatives going forward, we're going to be looking at policy review and training opportunities, so it's important that those two things remain up to date as technology changes. We've already started talking about what professional development days, what do professional development days look like next year for our staff, and what would be most effective, and really the biggest bang for our buck. We want to have some professional development maybe tied to Canvas or to Google, or specific to what are those specific instructional techniques that we think would be of value to train. We want to come up with a technology roadmap, so once we have obviously everything documented, the refresh cycle for a lot of the technology is pretty it's a reoccurring thing, so it's easy to predict. The average computer lasts anywhere from 4+ years, and you can really standardize on what those refresh cycles look like. So we want to come up with a roadmap so that we can be fiscally responsible and understand what those costs are going to be from year to year. We want to look at addition to cloud integration and disaster recovery, so that in the event something does happen in Antigo and we need school to function and operate the next day, what do we have from a system recovery standpoint to make sure we can be flexible and make sure we're boots on the ground in the event a fire or a storm or a flood or something happens, that might be catastrophic. And then, like I mentioned several times, this is cybersecurity enhancements. I think that, we just need to continue to take proactive measures around that, as that's not something that's going away in today's day and age. So again, kind of next steps, just continuing to partner with stakeholders, so whether that's IT staff, administrators, staff, students, and families, the board, to have conversations about what we want tech to look like in Annville going forward, making sure that we have the right staff on within our own team to support whatever those goals are, and then also making sure that we maintain those vendor partnerships, because in an organization of our size, we are really a team of like 4 to 5 people. There's, going to be things that we want to lean on our partners for, just to make sure that we're getting the latest and greatest information. And then last but not least, like I said, that detailed strategic roadmap, so that everyone can understand what those budget proposals are going forward as it ties to tech. So that being said, that kind of recaps, like I said, the current assessment, the strategic outlook, and what's been done since July 1. I want to thank the current technology members. They've been very flexible and supportive of my questions when I seek to just understand things, and I really look forward to collaborating with everyone going forward. Everyone's been awesome to work with. We've got a lot of potential here, and it's only going to do great things for student achievement. So as always, you're welcome to call or email me at any time if you have additional questions. Obviously, I could talk about this all night and try to limit myself so I wouldn't bore everybody, but please reach out if you have specific questions. A lot of times I'm at every meeting. I'm kind of in the background because I feel like tech should be in the background doing their job to make sure everyone else can be in the spotlight, but I'm happy always to answer any questions that anybody has. So thank you for your time tonight.
Do any of you have questions before? No? Thank you, Kesha. Nice job.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh? Yes, it was.
She's done a lot of hard work.
Obviously, I came late.
All right.
I didn't say.
Again, thank you, Mrs. Mushak, for your presentation and all the clarity around the work that you and your team have done and what you plan to do moving forward. We appreciate it. Up next, we have the Director of Curriculum and Instruction report attached. Ms. Stutzream is available remote if anyone has questions. Okay. Next is the superintendent report. Before I turn it over to Ms. Amanda Moore for a quick overview regarding mental health, I just want to go on record addressing some confusion around the 4K topic summary sheet that was posted that we worked through last month at the board meeting. There was some confusion around the motion, and it was something that I had never experienced before, so it was a mistake, and it was on my behalf. I made the mistake, and I just want to provide clarity around that. It was nothing that Deanna did. It was something I had consulted with Davis multiple times on because it was very confusing. So I just wanted to go on the record and say it was a mistake, and just to provide some clarity that there was nothing shady happening through any of that. And then we have the 4K topic summary sheet on the agenda later, and we'll speak more to that. And at this time, I welcome Amanda Moore to come down and talk to us about mental health and a spectacular donation our school district has just been granted.
Yes, so as you'll see later on in the meeting, we did receive a very generous donation of $20,000 from a community member.
Amanda,
Discussing.
do you want to put the mic, just because there was a really huge donation and it ties all together, I want to make sure people can hear if they're watching. I know, I am sorry.
So this donation of $20,000 was from a.
Amanda, can I ask one, Dustin, is that mic even on?
It was on.
I'm sorry.
Amanda, we'll call you back again.
Now try
Now
it,
we can
Amanda, see
start
if it's
over.
on. Tilt it.
It doesn't sound like it's
I know.
on.
I know. I thought that too. I was like, I think it might be coming across, but I'm not sure. Thank you for your patience.
It's almost like Carrie Underwood today, the music didn't work and she had to sing a cappella.
Oh, really?
You want
Are
to sing
gonna
for us?
sing?
Go ahead. She did an amazing job, though. Yeah, she did.
And now that, that room has been changed, now Dustin has to think, okay, where did we put that?
Where are those batteries? Yay, yay, Dustin.
The only person that needs it tonight, too. Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin.
All right. Oh, there it is.
Yes.
All right, so as I had said, we received a donation of $20,000 from a community member. And through conversations with him about what some of our needs are in this area, I had brought up how I've always wanted a fund to help students access mental health therapy services, because I have a number of students who do not have insurance or have a very high deductible, which then is a barrier for them to receive those services that they do need. And mid-sentence, this individual was like, that's what I want to do. So I worked with him to discuss really what that would look like, and we are rolling it out this week when we come back, for families to be able to access that if it is a barrier for them. So I have a Google form that'll be filled out by families so we can keep track, and seeing those types of things. So just a quick update on where we are with our mental health world. The high school, I have currently, there are 24 students receiving school-based therapy. There are 6 waiting for therapy services. 1 student that was disenrolled, so they're still on our data, but they're not receiving services or any of that. 2 students are being monitored. 1 student, for example, his job offers EAP services. So he's like, I'm gonna try that. If that doesn't work, then we'll see. So that's just kind of being monitored. 1 was closed due to no follow-through, and 1 was discharged and referred to CCS through North Central Healthcare. Middle school level, we have 19 students receiving school-based therapy, 14 are waiting for services, 1 student disenrolled, and 1 student was discharged for reaching goals. East Elementary, we have 2 students waiting. West, we have 1 student receiving school-based therapy, 8 waiting for services. 2 students were referred to North Central Healthcare due to their high needs and no available provider right now at the elementary level. And at North Elementary, we have 1 student receiving school-based therapy, 4 waiting for services. 1, again, that was referred to North Central Healthcare due to the high needs and not having that available provider. So I think overall, we are serving approximately 5% of our students with school-based mental health services, which I think is absolutely amazing. This donation is going to help us be able to serve more. I have 7 students at this time that their families are likely going to be receiving assistance from this donation. What I thought was really neat is when I knew that this was coming about, I reached out to our providers. So there's 4 providers that we primarily work with in-house. And I said, guys, we're getting this money. Can we work on something? Can we get a rate reduction? Can we do something? I want to get the most that we possibly can. And all 4 of them have agreed to provide a discount. I'm awaiting some final information from Compass Counseling. The other one, I can't recall offhand what we had discussed, but nothing has been finalized. Hazel Woody, who we just did her MOU recently, she's only looking at $110 per session, which anybody that's accessed therapy services knows that's huge. That is a very nice rate. And then North Lakes Clinic, they offered a 15% discount, which means that that initial intake is $179, and then a session is $136. So those are all reduced rates, so that means our families have been, or would have looked at minimum $160 a session is your general cost. So it's been exciting to get this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do with it. So that's what I got.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask,
Yep, I knew they were gonna come.
I just want to clarify so I understand. When you say school-based therapy, you're saying that our district is working in conjunction with these providers?
So
like as a
school-based,
referral for
yep, so school-based therapy, when there is students that are identified, so I created kind of more of a clear process this year, because mental health navigator used to be a full-time position. It no longer exists, so the social work sponged that up. So I wanted a better process and data collection as well. And so I have a document that school staff, generally it's administration or the school counselors, they must talk to the families first, saying, you know, we really feel like your student would benefit from these services. Are you interested in Ms. Moore reaching out to you? And if they say yes, they fill this document out. I get a Google email, and I reach out to the families. I talk to them about, you know, what insurance do you have? What are you looking for? You know, do you feel your child could do virtual, or do you feel that they would do better with a female or a male? And then I make those referrals from there.
So trying to coordinate with
To
these
try to,
four
so these are the 4 agencies that I'm in constant communication with about referrals. Do you have any openings? Things like that.
Okay, thank you for explaining that process.
Yeah.
Yep, that was my only question, was defining school-based mental health and in that process. So it's just simply we are providing.
A space for providers to come in and provide those services. So it's nice because then that allows our students to not have to leave for appointments. We're talking a minimum of 3.5 hours they would miss of school just because closest providers outside of North Central, who is very full. We're looking at Weston area, Rhinelander. So that way we're keeping our students in the buildings more.
It's a valuable service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Very much.
Amanda.
So continuing with the superintendent report, this past Friday, Jake and I spent the day in Hortonville with the engineers and architects walking through the plans for the new elementary. We met with all of the engineers and architects. There were many decisions to be made around the locations of HVAC, the location of the building on our property, what parent pickup and drop-off locations and bus staging would look like. I feel like we're getting close to a point that it shouldn't be much longer before we're able to share the information of the floor plan and what the exterior of the building looks like with our community. We still have a plan to meet with school staff to discuss the location of cabinetry within the classrooms, and the goal is to get that taken care of before the end of January. And we're still waiting to hear some specifics from Blue Design Group on whether we'll be able to do that or not. The past, not last Friday and 2 Fridays before that, Ms. Stutzream and I spent the days with kindergarten and first grade, and then the next Friday was second and third reviewing Act 20 data because we just finished Ames Web testing and talking about what students fell below the percentile that would be, those students would need additional testing and would be potential candidates for having the reading plans that are required by Act 20. And going through the process with the staff, we're very fortunate. Our instructional coaches and title staff were able to pull students out and test them. So it was something to help the staff so that teachers didn't have something that was being done to them, because many districts just said, here you go, here's the testing, figure it out and move forward. So we were able to eliminate some of that because they are still working very hard around implementing new resources math vetting program, and then also with the second year of implementation of a new ELA resource. So the staff were very appreciative of it, and there were lots of celebrations around our data, but there's still a lot of work that we have yet to do, and I don't think that's any surprise. We've been very transparent about that for the past 2 years, so a lot of work to be done, but a lot of good things coming out of it. Today, Ms. Tutzream and Mrs. Mushak and I met with Steve and had greater conversation around just the library in general and what things we would be entertaining as far as flexible seating, locations, and offerings such as STEAM. If we're going to have a makerspace room, we will have a technology area for a separate classroom within the library as well, and just working out the specifics around that. So a lot of time has been spent around ironing out the specifics with our new elementary, which is very exciting work. But hopefully we will get to a place to where then it will fall more on Jake to just be out supervising the work site and not so much planning, but a lot of exciting things happening. Also, I want to let everyone know you have a book beside you. In August, we had Anthony Muhammad come and speak to our staff, and he spent the day working through different things around PLC. As you know, one of the things that Ms. Tutzream has been working on with her instructional coaches is the implementation of leveraging PLCs and doing the right work with staff. So Angie was able to attend Mr. Muhammad's sessions, and she was very excited about the book and suggested that we get those for the board members so that you all have the opportunity to learn and engage a little more around the work that our staff are doing. So we have that there for you, but also I would like for you to know that we do have another very famous person in the realm of school reform, school improvement. It's Luis Cruz. He will be in our district February 14th, and I encourage all of you to attend to hear him speak. He has done some amazing things, especially as he's a former principal for a high school, of things that he did to turn the high school around. Anytime you go to anything through Solution Tree, he and Anthony Muhammad both are big name speakers. So to have both of those people in Antigo within 1 year is really very exciting. So, and that's all I have. Do you have questions about my report?
Just one question on the planning for the new build. Are we still on track for our projected or hopeful completion date? Do we know? I mean, that might be a early question to ask. I'm just curious.
I don't know that I can say with certainty. I have asked, I do know that in the process, once we get everything, so to date, the floor plan I feel is pretty solid, that there won't be any more changes done to that. Right now, we've spent more time working on the elevations and the exterior, and we've put a lot of time in around that, trying to make things look nice. And when I asked Steve with Blue Design Group what the next steps were and how long it would take, because once all of that is finalized, it gets submitted to DPI for approval. And at that time, when it's submitted, then we also can start going out to bid. And that's what Jake did, a lot of that work with the engineers about what quality of mechanics are we talking about, so that they know when they're submitting the bid proposals that we're getting what we're wanting in the new building. So once that's finished, then we should be ready to start moving some dirt around. So we're hopeful and have been very insistent that we need to try to meet the 1 year project timeline that we are hoping is going to happen. But as of right now, do we have that ironed out? No, we do not.
Thank you, I appreciate
Good
that
question.
update. And just a reminder, we didn't have any of this figured out prior to the community voting on the referendum. So it's a lot of work that has been tackled and accomplished from early November to mid-January. So I applaud you and your staff and Jake for all the work you have done, because we had to wait for those voter results before we knew what direction and what action steps we had.
Thank you.
Because Jill, had we gone through the process of where they are now, it would have cost extra money on the district to do the process where we are. So that's why we saved those dollars until after the vote was done. Deanna, also, if you could make a note to post February the 14th, as we could potentially have a quorum of the board present at that meeting, make sure that's posted in the community. Thank you. Any other questions? Moving on to item 5, board action. Letter A, 4K program, All Saints update. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years.
Okay, Jill, you made a motion to move to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years. Do you want to define those 2 years?
The 2025-26 school year and then the following.
And the 26-27 school year. Okay. So the motion on the floor that we will be discussing is to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years, 2025-2026 and 2026-2027. Do you have that? Okay. Jill, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, because I think it is most appropriate for Dr. Bardo to speak to it. I just was hoping to maybe not do an amendment to a motion is all. But this quick review was that it came to the CNI committee. It then went to Finance Committee, which was most appropriate, especially because the context of that discussion centered on the budget component and what was fiscally responsible for our district. So in previous discussions, we've also said, why 1 year, why not 2 years? Why do we do this, bring it back to the board each year? So it's simply an efficiency thing pending feedback, I guess, from the Finance Committee. So I'd hand it over to Dave if possible.
Okay, so any questions or discussion?
Sure.
Dr. Bardo?
Yeah, it came back to the Finance Committee. The big reason, not only because of finances, and to look at that, but there was a question of legality for having a 4K program run by the school district with a private school system. Our administration had contacted DPI, and DPI did not contact us back until like the Thursday prior to last Monday's committee meeting. Both people that were talked to at DPI had never heard of this happening, but they didn't say it was illegal. So my perspective is that we go forward with the program, but with the understanding that all board members, our administration, and that those people at All Saints understand that if DPI comes back and says the program is not legal, we will have to drop that. I'm looking for a word.
Contract.
Well, the contract or our association with the All Saints at this time. As far as 2 years, my feeling is financially for us it makes sense to do it, so I have no problem with 2 years. But at the same time, like I said, if it's found to be illegal, it's going to stop immediately.
I would propose then to the board that an amendment is offered to the motion on the floor to have that verbiage in there to cover the legality from DPI. So, Dr. Bardo, would you like to, or Jill, would you like to add to that pending information? Or do you want to leave it alone and just let somebody else make that motion?
Pending, yes, I had it for a moment, now I've lost it. Pending confirmation from the state, or pending confirmation from DPI.
Okay,
Is that enough?
correct. I think that would be
Okay.
sufficient.
So now that the amendment is on the table, now we can only speak regarding the amendment.
The amendment that Jill is bringing to the floor is to move to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 1 year, or for 2 years, 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027, pending approval from DPI. correct?
Approval or confirmation?
Are legality concerns?
slash there?
Sure.
Approval.
Well, I'm looking at Jill, who is making the amendment here.
I am totally okay with,
The reason I say this has to be an amendment is once you give a motion to the floor, it can't be taken back.
I just want to make sure the amendment encompasses what's needed.
Correct. Would anybody like to offer Jill some guidance?
I'll make a motion.
Hold 1 second. We have an amendment through Jill. We can't have another alternate motion on the floor. So we have to work through the amendment right now with Jill's amendment.
So can we share some thoughts?
You can,
Mark?
yeah, to help
So would
her
you want
make that
to add
decision.
pending confirmation that the 4K program is legal and binding?
Legal.
Pending confirmation that the 4K program is legal and binding from DPI. Yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
So the amendment on the floor now, what we need to be speaking to is the amendment, which is the statement. Can I read yours?
If you can.
Pending, can you read that, please?
Yes, pending confirmation is legal and binding from DPI. Yes.
Questions now? Kristen?
Are we under the impression that it is still pending? Are they reaching back to us? How did this conversation, like, where are we at with DPI?
So when Kelly and I met with DPI, we posed all of these questions because one of the things that we had talked about maybe at the Finance Committee, I can't remember, was that when Ms. Wagner was going through our directory and you have certain things that you can select for early childhood or 4K programs, and what we are doing is not even an option. So we asked several questions around the contract, the directory, all of the things, and the girl that we spoke with had never had these questions asked before, and she didn't know. So she was supposed to be going back to her administrator to get clarification and to reach back out to us. We have not heard from her yet. She was not familiar with any of the questions that we had.
So, okay, so that's interesting in and of itself, that she's never had this question posed to her, and nobody else is doing this. Second part of this is, I thought that part of the reason we were even having this discussion is because the fact that we were having 4K at All Saints was that we were also losing money by enrolling 4K students there versus enrolling them in the school district.
So
The
it,
we could
question
have-
was also the monetary impact here.
Yeah, because like we could have them within our school district, and then we would have the full amount per student coming into the school district versus having to split that or something with All Saints.
Kelly, do you want to speak to the monetary results of the 4K program?
Kelly, before you do that, I want to stop this discussion because that is not germane to the motion on the floor. The motion on the floor is the amendment, and that's what we need to deal with. Great question, and we'll bring that up after we deal with the amendment about the monetary issue.
Okay.
But let's deal with the amendment first, and either pass or fail the amendment, which has been read and stated before you. Questions or discussion for the amendment that's on the floor?
I would just question if it's necessary, because if we were to find that something was not legal, we would stop it. I don't know that we would need to have that. I mean, we're not gonna go through with something that we approve that we find the DPI does not approve of, correct? Like, is it
Yep.
necessary to have that amendment?
It could just bring clarification as to if DPI comes and finds that this is not legal, that we just stop it, as we would, but now it is in writing that we will stop it. It's not just an understatement that Dr. Bartle put that if something is wrong, that we would do this as understated.
We wouldn't even have a choice, would we?
No.
Right.
No, not really.
No. When,
Well, you shouldn't.
Right.
So
Right.
does
It just seems
expectation
to
would be to
introduce
stop it.
gray area that doesn't need to be there. Like, to me.
I don't disagree. And if our minutes reflect, actually, that would be our record of the discussion.
Correct.
So are you withdrawing your motion then?
Once a motion is on the floor, it cannot be withdrawn from the floor. We have to take care of it.
Okay.
So now we're dealing with the amendment of the motion right now. We're not dealing with the motion, just the amendment part of it,
Amendment, okay.
which is adding the pending information,
Pending confirmation is legal and binding from DPI.
So a yes vote means what?
A yes vote means we will add that to the main motion. That statement, pending confirmation is legal pending confirmation from DPI.
And a no vote means that it just would not be,
Would not be added.
doesn't mean that we're
Correct.
disagreeing, it just would not be added.
Correct, it would not be added. A no vote means that amendment is not added, and then we go back to the main motion that Jill put on the floor.
Okay.
Originally.
Thank you for clarifying that, Angie. Any other questions?
It is my motion, amended motion. I will likely be voting no because, in further thought, in Kristen's point, it just seems to become more gray. And I am very confident that our minutes can reflect the discussion of the vote.
Okay. Any other questions or comments of the amendment?
So long as there's very clear minutes.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments, what you are voting on is the amendment to the motion on the floor. A yes vote means that that statement will be added to the main motion. A no vote means that that statement will not be added to the motion, and we will go back and entertain the main motion on the floor that was put on the floor by Jill. Are there any questions about what or how you're voting? All right, hearing no questions, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? And the vote is now closed. There are 6 noes, did I count that? 6 noes and 1 yes, and the amendment to the motion fails. So now we will go back to the main motion, which is, I move to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years, 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027. All the discussion will be pertaining to that motion on the floor. And to be fair, we'll go back to Angie's question of the monetary questions, and we'll have Kelly to respond.
Kelly, are you there?
Yes, I'm just, can you clarify what your question is? I'm thinking that it is that you're wondering, if we have a monetary gain by working through, with All Saints. Is that accurate?
Gain or loss?
Gain or loss, yes. So if we were to bring in the students into the district, we would not have to split the cost with All Saints. Is that correct? For the 4K?
Correct. That is if the students would come to the district and not stay at All Saints.
So we would essentially have a monetary gain then?
If the students decided to enroll in the school district.
Correct.
So, can we predict if they are going to? No.
Right.
And if they don't, it'd be a monetary loss, a significant monetary loss, if they did not enroll within the district.
Their trends are showing that those students are gonna enroll at All Saints and stay at All Saints. So we are likely, based on their trending data, which I think was provided initially to CNI committee, if I recall correctly, and feedback from All Saints is they're gonna get those students 4K and keep them. So the current motion at least gives us, we make out financially in that 1 year. Otherwise, we'd have nothing from that first year because they would just be, there would be no contract in place, so we wouldn't get anything for it.
wouldn't,
Correct.
wouldn't the 4K then be privately funded for All Saints if parents chose to go that route versus coming to the school district? So how would that be I guess I'm trying to understand how, like not all of the parents that are going to, are going to All Saints now for 4K are going to choose that route.
May I ask Kelly a question to help Angie?
Sure.
Kelly, what do we get per student now? Is it 11,300? Okay, and then,
That is how much,
That's not for 4K.
then what for 4K? 60%?
Yes.
0.6, yep.
Okay, so it's 60% of 11,300. Somebody do the math.
$6,700.
Okay.
So.
And what do we send per student to All Saints?
1,275.
And we get
Or
50,
45, sorry, 1,245.90 cents.
and we get 5,000 again,
67.
5067? Is that right?
I'm calculating, so.
It looks like we make about $3,821 per child. And what Jill was attempting to put forth is that if we say, we're done, and then if all of the children, 20-some, stay there, yes, the school itself over there those parents will have to spend some money, obviously, and the 5,067 that we would get goes away, okay, if they stay.
Yes.
So then what you have to almost do is at what point does it make sense for, how many do we have to get here so that we are okay as compared to, the getting the 38 no matter what, and at what point do we have, how many kids do we have to get back? Do we need to get 10 to make it okay that we quit the program? Personally, I'd rather be safe with 3,800 than take the chance that we're gonna lose 20-some students.
Can I ask a question?
Wait
Have
just
a
one
good relationship.
second. Angie, you still have the floor.
Okay, so the thing is though too, is once they're in 4K at All Saints, what is the percentage that stay with All Saints once they into first grade through 8th grade versus coming into the public school? Because then
They
we're
stay.
also going to miss all of that funding as well. Am I right?
So we're either missing all the funding or we're taking it for 1 year, is really what it comes down to.
Because they stay,
Because they stay at All Saints.
correct.
Yeah. Nothing against All Saints.
A lot of
I'm just looking
times
at it
it's-
as a business.
A lot of times it's older siblings that are there already,
Right.
enrolled in the higher grades, and that's the reason that they stay.
Right, but at some point, we're gonna have to make that decision of, looking at it as, the monetary as a business decision for the school district, because we don't wanna keep losing the funding. We're already short funding.
Correct.
It has nothing to do, there's nothing wrong with All Saints. I mean, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying strictly as a business decision, funding decision for the school district, that would be in our best interest. That's how I'm looking at it.
So I think last year, that was the primary concern that board members had, myself included. I think this year was
Yeah.
really helpful in bringing it to committees and then shifting it over to finance, because that's really the bread and butter of that discussion was the financial impact, which helped us deep dive to see that it is a benefit to our district by maintaining the partnership because of that 1 year in which we would get dollars for those students. Otherwise, we would get no dollars at any point for those students until they reach the high school.
Might increase the chances of them coming to us when we do build a new school too, little PR. They might wanna be in the new building versus maybe they won't want it if we anger them.
I'm going to go to Bobby for her question.
Two questions. What is the benefit in that arrangement for All Saints? Why would we be, I just want to understand the relationship that we have with them. If we're getting $3,800 of that money per student, what is the benefit for All Saints?
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
They give,
I don't get you.
Yes, you may.
they give their parents a discounted rate for those students, so the dollars that they earned from us last year are currently funding their Spanish program. So they get more money from us than the discount that they give to those parents. So they're also making money.
Okay. And then my second question is, the original motion reads 1 year. Why are we stretching it out to 2 years and not re-looking at this again?
Well, that motion that's in front of you is a suggested motion from the
Okay.
administration. Yeah,
Oh,
that came from committee,
right.
but any member has an opportunity to make a motion, whatever they want to read. We don't have to do the motion that's here.
Can I make an amendment to the motion
Can-
now, or?
You may. I'll entertain an amendment to that motion.
Okay, so I would just amend the
Before you say that, can I say something to what you were saying before you make the amendment? So to address what you were asking, like what's the benefit to them? Again, I just want to point out that once the kids are in 4K at All Saints, they stay there. They don't come to the public school. That's a huge benefit to them.
I was looking at the dollar amount, but yes, you're absolutely right.
I mean, that's a huge benefit. They keep them until 8th grade.
That's true, and then also I understand what you're saying.
So
Dr. Wardo?
I just wanted to say that.
Right.
I did the math, and I based it on 20 students, and I know there's like 26 there, I think. If we stop the program, we will need 15 students out of 20, or 3 out of every 4 to come back to us to break even. So that's the math. So if we do not do this, and no student comes to us, we're basically throwing $5,067 away times 26 students, if that's what they have. But like I said, for us to break even, 3 out of every 4 of those kids would have to come to us immediately. I don't see that happening.
Okay, Bobby, I'll let you offer your amendment to the motion. I've been a little lenient here.
Okay, I would amend the motion to read that I move the board to renew the 4K program with All Saints School for 1 year, 25-26.
Okay, the amendment,
That was suggested by the committee originally.
okay, the amendment to the, well, that would actually be a substitutionary motion, which is germane. We can entertain a substitutionary motion, and that would be, I move to renew the 4K program with All Saints Catholic School for 1 year, 25-26. Did you want to add that in there? The 1 year, 25-26?
Yes.
Okay. So now our discussion needs to be around the substitutionary motion. I move to renew the 4K program with All Saints Catholic School for 1 year, 25-26. This is the substitutionary motion that we will entertain. If this passes, then it will become the main motion. If it does not pass, we will go back to the motion that's on the floor by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion, Bobby? Your substitutionary motion.
I just feel that it needs to be looked at again annually. And I think we need to look at the numbers annually, so.
Okay. Any other discussion of the substitutionary motion on the floor? Kristen?
The reason I would shy away from it is because they do ask for an increase every year, so this also locks them into the current rate as well. And every year that we look at it, the numbers tend to reflect the same thing, that we continue to make money on the situation. So it seems to be that it would benefit us financially to keep it for 2 years.
Is there any other discussion of the motion, substitutionary motion on the floor? I'm in a quandary as to how, so this is a question for, and I'm not sure that we can answer this. Do all parents benefit from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade? Is there a discount for all students because of what the public school district does for the 4K program at All Saints? No?
No, they're just the 4K students.
Just the 4K?
4K parents.
Thank you.
So is there a financial impact for the public school district for students that stay at All Saints?
From the 4K program?
Yes, for students that are 1st through 8th grade at All Saints.
It would be that we can't not count them in our third Friday count because they're not students in our enrollment.
Okay. But we are not having to pay All Saints any type of funds.
No, not through kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay,
This is just an agreement with 4K.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing no questions or comments, the voting device is open. We're voting for the substitutionary motion, which is 1 year. And the voting device is open. Dustin is working on that right now. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay, the vote is now closed.
Hang on, it's not reading.
Am I reading this correctly? Deanna's is 3-3? Then that substitutionary motion fails. We will go back to the motion on the floor, which is moving to renew the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years, 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to bring up, because it's important to note that historically, the students who have gone to All Saints stay at All Saints. Last year, we only did a half a day, and the parents were then responsible for paying for the second half of the day, and it did not sway any student from leaving All Saints. So we are only going to collect money for these students 1 year. They're going to go to All Saints, whether we do this or not. And so it's money that we're going to get or never going to get for these kids. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor?
I guess, help me understand that, because do we offer 4K? Like, how are we not,
We have 4K in all of our buildings.
okay, are we full?
No.
Okay. So these are these are families that are choosing to go there, anyways.
And there's no financial reason. They're not going there because it's paid for.
Okay.
They're going there because they're going to All Saints. So whether they have to pay for it or not, they're going to go.
Okay,
Historically, I can't, based on the numbers, they don't leave after that first year. Once they have to pay tuition, they still go.
okay.
So kindergarten through 8th grade, then they're on their own paying the whole tuition. So my only thought there is that when we have a new building, will there be some attraction to coming to our new facility?
I would sure hope so.
Right. So therefore, that's why I think we should look at it on an annual basis. So you're saying that that's going to happen with 4K regardless, but we'll have 4K in the new building as well, right? Am I?
Correct.
Yes, we will.
So I would stick with, well, it failed anyways, so I guess we're back to 2 years.
Scott, I think I heard you saying something.
By going 1 year, you're gambling that they're not gonna ask for an increase again. I think if you lock them in for 2, it would seem to me if we locked them in for 2, and then when we had the new school, we made a hard pitch for those people and maybe just ended it then and see what happens. Just a thought. I think they're gonna go to St. John's no matter what. There are certain people who are gonna go to St. John's.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing no questions or discussion, the voting device is open. You are voting yes in favor of moving renewing the 4K program at All Saints Catholic School for 2 years, 25, 26, 26, 27, or no vote means that you are not in favor of renewing the program. All understand the voting. All right, the voting device is open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. 5 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention, and the motion passes. Moving to item B, agreement for ballpark use between the City of Antigo and the Unified School District of Antigo. I would be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the agreement between the City of Antigo and the Unified School District of Antigo for the use of ballparks outlined in the agreement in 2025, for 2025.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Just looking at my notes from the committee meeting is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom and Jake, I believe the ballpark agreement started at 1,900. Correct. Okay, and then it was proposed to raise that to 8,000. And the negotiation between that was to have the district assist with maintenance, is that correct? And have no change to that 1,900 then? Do you want to clarify? Oh, to 0, I'm sorry.
But they have to.
Yeah, so we would do some additional mowing and dragging of the fields. Tom's, coaches and students would help out with things like making sure that garbage is picked up.
Right.
Raking around bases. In exchange for that, the contract would then be $0.
Thank you for clarifying, yes, I remember that. So it ultimately is a savings for us.
Correct.
Okay. So,
Okay. Any other discussion or questions of the motion on the floor while Mr. Leideman is at the microphone? Okay, hearing no discussions, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter C, school calendar for 2025-2026. I will be looking for a motion, please.
Move the board approve the 2025-2026 option 2 USDA school calendar as presented.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
It's brought to committee. Topic summary sheet is included to show the survey that was sent out, which also included data collected by who was filling it out, staff, student, or family member. So the decision was driven by the data received and a lot of work in time put it into in terms of the minutes. I'll give a reminder that each of the buildings have different minute requirements. And then also with professional development days in scheduling, since that gets scheduled out in advance. But I will say in committee, I was really focused on the feedback from those surveys with a high number of respondents.
Any questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? I will read for the public's knowledge what the option 2 consists of, and that would be 167.5 student days, 177 teacher days, 6 built-in snow days. The elementary daily schedule would be 7:55 to 3 p.m. The middle school daily schedule will be 7:50 to 3:15 p.m. The high school daily schedule would be 7:40 to 3:15 p.m. This means the student starts school in September, but ends school with a half a day after Memorial Day during that week. Any discussion? Okay, the voting device is now, oh, I'm sorry, Kristen, thank you.
Sorry. In the surveys, there was a lot of discussion about returning from Christmas or winter break on that Friday.
So okay to say Christmas,
Yeah,
in
does it
my
say
opinion.
Christmas? Okay. Christmas break on the 2nd. Can you speak to that?
Yes, so again, we use the results to help us with decision-making, and we decided that students would return the following Monday after we gathered that survey data, and that day will become a professional development day. So teachers come in, they have time to get things ready, and they're prepared to greet our students the following Monday.
Thank you.
Good question.
And I'm sorry that I didn't see you before going. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Are you waving for, no?
No.
Okay.
No.
The voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter D, open enrollment. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board to approve the 2025-2026 no special education open enrollment seats.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
This was also brought to committee, and focus of that discussion is ability to meet needs of students with IEPs currently, relative to our staffing size, or our staffing, to ensure we're adequately meeting minutes as required through their IEP, which is a state document that we're required to follow. So we don't want to put ourselves in a position of over-promising and under-delivering, essentially.
Correct. Any other questions to the motion on the floor? Hearing no questions, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. The motion passes. All in favor. Letter E, report of donations. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board to approve the following donations: $20,000 from Don Wirtz for mental health and $500 from Elsa McKenna for the Aquatic Center.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Appreciation for the very generous donation that was given to our district for both mental health and the Aquatic Center. Thank you very much.
Any discussion of the motion on the floor? Okay, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Thank you so much for your contributions. And item number 6 is adjournment. I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion's been made by Jill for adjournment. Any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Then this meeting is adjourned. Everybody be